Maria's hands trembled as she dusted the antique vase in Alexander Thorne's study. The billionaire sat motionless in his leather chair, staring at documents he hadn't read for hours. She'd worked in his mansion for 3 years, always invisible, always silent. But tonight felt different. The air crackled with something dangerous. "Maria," his voice cut through the silence like a blade. She froze. He never spoke her name. "Come here." Her heart hammered against her ribs as he approached his desk. Alexander stood slowly, his dark eyes burning with an intensity that made her breath catch. He moved toward her with predatory grace, each step deliberate. When he stopped inches away, she could smell his cologne mixed with whiskey. "I need to make love," he whispered, his breath hot against her ear. "Don't move." His fingers traced the jawline with aching gentleness. "I'm dying, Maria. 6 months, maybe less. Brain tumor. Inoperable." The words hung between them like shattered glass. Maria's eyes widened in disbelief. This man who commanded boardrooms and built empires was crumbling before her. His hand shook as it cupped her face. "Everyone wants my money, my power." His voice cracked. "But you? You see me as human. I've watched you sing while cleaning, dance when you think nobody's looking. You're real in a world of masks." Tears streamed down Maria's cheeks. She'd heard rumors about his coldness, his ruthless business tactics. But this vulnerable man before her was someone entirely different. Alexander pulled a small box from his pocket, revealing a simple gold ring. "Be with me," he pleaded. "Not as my maid, as my wife. Let me know love before I lose everything, including my mind. The tumor is already affecting my memory. Soon, I won't remember my own name. But tonight, right now, I want to remember this moment with you." Maria stepped back, her mind racing. "Mr. Thorne, this is insane. I can't just—" "Alexander," he interrupted. "Call me Alexander. And I know it's insane. Everything about this is wrong. You're 25. I'm 42. You clean my floors, and I sign million-dollar deals. But none of that matters when death is breathing down your neck." He walked to the window, staring at the city lights below. "My lawyers drew up papers today. If you marry me, you'll inherit everything. $2 billion, this mansion, my companies. All of it." Maria's stomach twisted. "You want to buy me?" Alexander spun around, anger flashing in his eyes. "No. God, no. I want someone real beside me when the darkness comes. The money is insurance. My brother Richard will fight for this estate. He's circling like a vulture already. If you're my wife, my legal heir, he can't touch anything. You can protect my legacy." "What legacy?" Maria's voice hardened. "You've never mentioned family, friends, or anything personal. Who are you really, Alexander?" His face paled. He sank into his chair, suddenly looking every bit as fragile as he claimed. "I built this empire on lies, Maria. My brother and I inherited our father's company. Richard wanted to keep it honest. I wanted power. I pushed him out, stole his shares through legal loopholes, destroyed his reputation. He lost everything. His wife, his kids, his dignity." The confession hung heavy in the air. Maria felt her sympathy crack. "So you're not just dying. You're guilty." "Yes," Alexander whispered. "And Richard knows about the tumor. He's waiting for me to deteriorate so he can claim I was mentally incompetent when I made business decisions. He'll unravel everything, take it all back, unless you help me." Maria's hands clenched into fists. "Why should I help someone who destroyed their own family?" Alexander looked up, his eyes glistening. "Because I'm asking you to be better than me." Maria paced the study, her mind a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. $2 billion could change everything. Her mother's medical bills, her sister's college tuition, the poverty that had haunted her entire life. But at what cost? "I need time," she finally said. "Time is exactly what I don't have." Alexander pulled out a folder, spreading medical reports across his desk. "These are real, Maria. Dr. Chen at Memorial Hospital. You can verify everything. The headache started 6 months ago. The diagnosis came 3 weeks back. I've been living in denial, burying myself in work. But yesterday, I forgot my assistant's name. A woman who's worked for me for 8 years. The decline is beginning. Maria studied the documents, her hands shaking. The medical terminology was complex, but the prognosis was clear. Glioblastoma, stage 4, terminal. Her eyes blurred with tears. If I agree, she said slowly, what exactly do you expect from this marriage? Alexander stood, maintaining his distance. Companionship, honesty. I don't expect physical intimacy unless you want it. I know this sounds like a business transaction, but I'm begging for something more. I want to know what love feels like before my brain turns to mush. I want someone to hold my hand when the seizures start. I want to die knowing one person cared about Alexander the man, not Alexander the millionaire. And your brother. Richard will challenge the will regardless, but as my wife, you will have legal standing. My lawyers are the best. They'll protect you. He paused, vulnerability creeping into his voice. I'm also leaving instructions. If you choose to give Richard half the estate after I'm gone, that's your decision. I just need him kept at bay while I'm still alive. Maria felt something shift inside her. This wasn't romance. It wasn't even really love. It was two desperate people reaching for connection in the darkness. One condition, she said firmly. You reconcile with Richard. Before you lose your mind, you apologize and try to make things right. Alexander's jaw clenched. He'll never forgive me. Maybe not, but you'll try, or I walk away right now. After a long moment, Alexander nodded. Deal. The wedding happened in Alexander's study 3 days later. A judge, 2 lawyers, and a witness. No flowers, no music, just signatures on paper and hollow vows that felt more like a business contract. Maria wore a simple blue dress. Alexander wore the same suit he'd worn the night he proposed. That evening, Alexander arranged a meeting with Richard at a neutral restaurant downtown. Maria insisted on coming, sensing Alexander might lose his nerve. When Richard arrived, the resemblance between the brothers was striking. Same sharp jawline, same dark hair. But Richard's eyes held none of Alexander's intensity. They held only exhaustion and barely contained rage. So the great Alexander Thorne finally summons me, Richard said, sitting down heavily. Let me guess. You're dying and want absolution. Yes, Alexander said simply. Richard blinked, clearly expecting denial or manipulation. What? I'm dying. Brain tumor. 6 months, maybe less. And you're right, I want to apologize before I lose the ability to form coherent thoughts. Alexander slid the medical reports across the table. I destroyed you, Richard. I was greedy and ruthless. I chose money over blood. Nothing I say can undo that damage. Richard's hands shook as he read the documents. His anger crumbled, replaced by something more complex. Grief, vindication, confusion. Why now? Why not years ago when it could have mattered? Because I was a coward then. I'm still a coward now, just one with an expiration date. Maria watched Richard's face crumble. Despite everything, he was losing his brother. The company, Richard started, is yours if Maria agrees after I'm gone, Alexander interrupted, glancing at his wife. She's my heir, but I've made my wishes clear. You deserve what I took. Richard's eyes widened, then narrowed suspiciously. Who is she? Some kind of saint you found to ease your conscience. She's a woman who saw me as human, Alexander said quietly. Richard studied Maria for a long moment. Then, unexpectedly, he laughed, a broken, bitter sound. You don't know, do you? Know what? Alexander frowned. Richard turned to Maria, his expression unreadable. Tell him who you really are, Maria Thorne. The restaurant seemed to tilt sideways. Maria's face drained of color as Alexander stared at her in confusion. What is he talking about? Richard leaned back, his smile cold. Maria isn't just some innocent maid, brother. She's my daughter. The words detonated like a bomb. Alexander's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Maria's eyes filled with tears as the truth she'd buried came flooding out. When you destroyed my father, Maria said, her voice breaking, you destroyed all of us. My mother had a breakdown. My little sister stopped speaking for 2 years. We lost our home, our dignity, Everything. I was 15, watching my father drink himself unconscious every night, mumbling about betrayal. You planted yourself in my house, Alexander whispered, realization dawning. This was revenge. It was supposed to be. Maria's voice rose. I spent 3 years learning everything about you, looking for evidence to destroy you the way you destroyed us. But then, she pressed her hands to her face. Then I saw you were human, lonely, broken in ways money couldn't fix. When you told me about the tumor, I saw an opportunity for something bigger than revenge. What could be bigger than revenge? Alexander's voice was hollow. Redemption, Richard said quietly, looking at his daughter with pride and pain. Maria called me 2 days ago, told me everything. The marriage, your condition, your guilt. She convinced me to come tonight, not for your sake, but because she believed people deserve the chance to die with dignity, even people like you. Alexander turned to Maria, tears streaming down his face. You used me. Yes, she admitted. But somewhere along the way, I stopped using you and started seeing you. The man who waters the roses himself because he doesn't trust the gardeners. The man who donates anonymously to children's hospitals. The man who cried in his sleep, calling out for his brother. You're not just a monster who hurt my family, Alexander. You're also broken and scared and desperately trying to matter before you disappear. The three sat in heavy silence. Finally, Alexander spoke, his voice raw. So what happens now? Richard reached across the table, placing his hand over his brother's. Now we figure out how to be brothers again before time runs out. The company, the money, none of it matters more than blood. Maria helped me see that. Alexander gripped his brother's hand like a lifeline. I'm so sorry, Richard, for everything. I know, Richard whispered. I know you are. Maria watched the brothers reconcile through her tears, realizing that sometimes love isn't about romance. Sometimes it's about choosing forgiveness over bitterness, connection over isolation, and humanity over revenge. As Alexander's condition would inevitably worsen, he wouldn't die alone or unforgiven, and that, Maria understood, was worth more than any inheritance. The millionaire who'd whispered desperate words to his maid had found something more valuable than wealth in his final days. He'd found redemption, family, and the healing power of truth.